This is Let's Talk Sports. I'm Corbin Elliott, and I'm joined with Mr. Henderson. How's it going?
It's going pretty well. How you doing?
I'm doing all right.
All right.
So, first off, what inspired you to start coaching golf at the high school level?
Well, I've always, since I've been teaching, I've coached one thing or another. Actually, I started off coaching competitive shooting at the Indiana Social Sailors Children's Home. And so I've always taken a particular enjoyment out of that because I used to, I was a marksman in the Army and that kind of thing. So it was something I kind of migrated towards. And then I coached junior high golf down at the junior high here. And, it was just kind of a normal progression of things. And plus, a lot of the young men that I coach now, I had coached in junior high. And so it was kind of an easy transition. So,
okay. And how long have you been coaching, and what's the background in the sport?
how long have I been coaching golf? Since COVID, since 2020. And my background in sport is I've been playing for the better part of my whole life. I've had all the, kid jobs at golf courses, and then I've played a lot over my lifetime. So.
Okay. And what's your philosophy whenever it comes to golf?
Integrity of the highest form. I mean, like I tell our golfers, we have a swing coach to teach you how to swing a club. My goal is to help you become more productive adults, by having the highest of integrity, being honest in everything you do, and being respectful of the game and the facilities in which we operate in. Because I've always thought that if we can teach, our young men to do that, we'll have a better population of young men. So.
Absolutely. And how do you balance individual skill development with team performance?
Like I said, we have a swing coach that handles all of our individual development. As far as team development, my mission or my goal as the coach is to put the best team on the course that we can, and kind of inspiring them to do better tomorrow than what they did today, kind of process.
Okay. And how do you prepare your team for tournaments?
Well, first thing we do is I spent a lot of time in the Army doing a lot of terrain analysis, and I've always talked about, before we can go and play on a course, we train as we fight, kind of a thing. So the first thing we're going to do is do a terrain analysis. We're going to sit down, we're going to evaluate the course, and have each individual golfer kind of map out their own plan of how they're going to execute that course hole by hole based off their capabilities.
And what does a typical practice look like for you?
Well, it depends on the day. In all honesty, there's days that we'll do nothing but putting practice or chipping practice, and then we'll do some range practice. And there's days we go out and play 9 holes for a score. Just kind of depends on several factors. One, what the course's business what kind of business they have going on that day, versus what our individual needs are. So it's constantly in flux depending on the needs of the team.
Mm-hmm. And how do you help players improve course management?
Basically, like I said, we'll sit down and we'll evaluate each course hole by hole, look at their individual capabilities, have them measure out their own club markers for each hole, and to ensure that they can reach the green in regulation, to ensure that they have a decent look at scoring the hole.
Okay. And how do you build team spirit in such an individual sport like golf?
Well, a team is a team. It doesn't matter if it's an individual sport or if it's an actual team sport. The hardest thing to do is getting young men to see past that. Yeah, it's an individual sport, but at the same time, we're all competing to achieve a specific goal. Bringing all these individuals together to achieve, going to a regional championship, for example.
Okay. And what's the biggest challenge you face as a high school golf coach?
It would have to do with our young men. Our young men are how do I say, they have an overinflated sense of their own capabilities. Mm-hmm. And just like most young men at this age, they're very headstrong, and they believe their way is the best way. And so when we turn them loose on the course, they're out there by themselves. And then we have to think that they're doing what our game plan is, executing our game plan versus whatever goes through their mind.
How do you handle conflicts or underperformance during the season?
Well, actually, those are two different two different areas, right? Conflict is one thing, underperformance is another. If you're talking about individual conflict with me and an individual, we don't do those. So that's easy to handle. It's really, at the end of the day, we're the coaching staff, you're the participant in the sport, and what we have, we're open-minded, but at the end of the day, we'll come to a decision. That decision is expected to be followed. As far as underperformance, we train underperformance. We find, just like in a classroom, if we find an area of weakness, we continue to teach that, train that, and reassess it as we go along.
What's sectionals looking like for our team?
Right now, it's a tough prospect, to be honest with you. We're looking at, you got to understand, our county is a very competitive county when it comes to golf now. When I first started, we had good teams, but even out at Eastern Hancock, where they were shooting like 180s, 190s on a nine-hole course, a couple of years ago, they're very, very competitive, and we've tried to put ourselves in a position to where, we can be competitive, against these teams. It's kind of a toss-up right now on where we'll fall out in that process. But I have the utmost capability in our young men to be able to go out and do what they need to do to get us to that next level.
Absolutely. And what has been your most rewarding moment as a coach?
Seeing our young men go off, graduate high school, move on to the next level of life, and to do it successfully. I've been fortunate enough to have two groups of young men graduate out of here. Two graduating classes, and they all seem like they're doing very well for themselves. And I expect the same from the next group that goes out of here this year and the year after.
And how do you measure success beyond just wins and losses?
Basically, what we just talked about. Did I have as far as from my perspective, how do I measure success? Did I make a positive impact on these young men when they step out into the world? Am I somebody that they know they can look to even long after they're gone for help if they need it? Letters of reference, advice, whatever. I took on in this profession to understand that this is a lifelong commitment.
Yeah. And why do you think golf is one of the hardest sports on the planet?
Because it's mental. It's a very mental sport. At the end of the day, for everything that is so rewarding about it, everything can go extremely wrong if you're in the wrong frame of mind. But however, I always look at golf as a microcosm of life, and plus it's that sport that you can play for your entire lifetime. I've known guys that have played this sport for 40, 50 years and are still as horrible as were the day they started. But to them, it's not about the competing piece. It's about the camaraderie piece. It's about building the relationship with other people, families, businesses, making business deals. It's a sport that is a sport without truly being a sport in a lot of ways, because once you leave the competitive nature of it, it's really something we build relationships around.
Mm-hmm. And what's the ultimate goal for this season?
To win a sectional championship, like always, move on to regionals, and be very competitive there.
And what advice would you give to a student interested in joining the golf team?
Just join, and we all got to start somewhere. We got an excellent assistant coach in Noah Moeller. He works magic. He can literally work magic into just about anything. He's very patient. He's kind of my yin to my yang. He's very patient. I'm very impatient. Yeah. He's very very reserved. I'm very not. So it's one of those things to where we get him with them and we can do some assessing and but basically my end of this thing again from that perspective is making sure we have the right young men in our program. Are they getting the grades they need to get? Are they morally and ethically correct in the way they conduct themselves? Are they good representatives of our school, their families themselves?
Absolutely. Well, that's all I got for you, so thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And thank you for watching.